Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So, guys, our human family tree, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
By one little drip at a time, but it's pretty constant.
It's a constant drip, and so we have new additions to welcome, or to say, hey, guys.
Hey, cuz.
What's up, cuz?
Yep.
How's it hanging?
Mm-hmm.
So, new human species, Dragon Man. Okay, that's kind of curious right there. May be our closest relative yet, even closer to us than Neanderthals. Skull of an ancient human discovered in northeastern China may belong to a previously unknown human species that scientists have dubbed Homo longi, or Dragon Man. 3 new studies report. Dragon Man's well-preserved skull is the largest Homo skull on record, so the biggest one yet. An analysis of the cranium revealed that Dragon Man might be the closest known related species to Homo sapiens, even closer than Neanderthals, who were long thought to be our closest relation, the study found. I was surprised by the resulting phylogeny, which is the family tree analysis, linking it to Homo sapiens rather than Homo neanderthalensis. But our conclusions are based on the analysis of large amounts of data, study co-researcher Chris Stringer, a research leader at the Center for Human Evolution Research at the Natural History Museum in London, told Live Science in an email. However, this interpretation is debatable. It seems possible that this skull belongs to the mysterious Denisovan human lineage, 3 scientists specializing in human evolution told Live Science. Now, the history of Dragon Man's skull is worthy of an Indiana Jones movie. There's a little video there. A Chinese man reportedly discovered it in 1933 in Harbin City. Interesting. In China's northernmost province. However, the man, kept anonymous by his family, worked as a labor contractor for the Japanese invaders, chose not to turn over the skull to his Japanese boss. Instead, he buried it in an abandoned well, a traditional Chinese method of concealing treasures. The researcher wrote in the study, the skull remained there for 85 years, surviving the Japanese invasion, the Civil War, Communist movement, and the Cultural Revolution. The researcher said, before the man died, he told his family, who recovered the fossil in 2018, later donated it to Geoscience Museum of Hebei, GEO University. The research team had never seen a skull like this before. The head was huge, containing a large brain, with a long, low-shaped, massive brow ridge over the eyes. The face, the nose, and the jaws were very broad, had big eyes, but the face was low in height, with delicate cheekbones, and was tucked back under the brain case, as in a modern human. Scientists found slight depressions on the top of his head that might have been healed wounds, but we have no evidence of the cause of death. Further analysis determined the skull likely belonged to a male who died about 50 years of age. And you know what? They're always going to try to make them look as, quote unquote, caveman-like as possible. So it had, some unique features, typical archaic human features as well, but they found a mosaic combination of primitive and derived characters, setting itself apart from all other previously named Homo species. So it's a new species entirely, Dragon Man or Homo longi. And there's another article here going into some depth, as you see here. And here we have fossil in the picture there, fossil human skulls from China, Homo erectus to the left, and then examples of the recently defined Homo longi to the right. Bigger brain capacity, and interesting. What's really going on here, guys? What's really going on here? Before we go into that, we see new prehistoric human unknown to science discovered in Israel. This is another one that just came out. A new type of early human previously not known to scientists have been discovered in Israel. And researchers believe this new human species intermarried with Homo sapiens and was an ancestor of the Neanderthals. Interesting, another one. The site here is Nesher, Ramla, and it's a few kilometers from the modern-day city probably close to a water reservoir where early humans could hunt animals. Today, the dig is filled with many animal bones, stone tools for making fire and butchering, and human bones as well. So we asked the guides what was happening, and specifically, I know when I asked you, I asked about Homo longi, and what was the answer? What happened to Homo longi?
They're another species that was created by, I guess I perceive them to be the Illuminati. So our controllers. Our controllers. You can say that. Don't know if it's them specifically, but our controllers who keep creating these beings to try to get them to be more submissive and get them to do their work for them. But once they realize that, evolution is happening, then there is a big problem. Then things have to change.
As we've shared, Denisovans, Neanderthals, Cro-Magnon, now we could add this one to the mix, all had bigger brains. They were all actually, too, physically more robust and stronger, and perhaps a little harder to handle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when Cindy said, the Illuminati / controllers, we're not really talking about the Bavarian Illuminati. We're talking about something that goes back far more. We're just using that term, that group that starts with an I, ends with an I, in a more broad sense, because the controllers go back millennia, multiple millennia. I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're going to delve into that as we have before. Homo capensis, a species that lives hidden amongst humanity, perhaps? Well, how about a hominid with a large brain, another very large brain, and an IQ of 180? Would have maintained a world hegemony since ancient times if they have an IQ like that. Researchers like Dr. Edward Spencer have exposed archaeological evidence of these hominids with elongated skulls from across the world, evidence from 50,000 years ago, South Africa, even people like Akhenaten, the Egyptian pharaoh. Many believe that they still live hidden amongst us, quote unquote, the Vatican, and they handle world politics, and that they could be alien human hybrids. And, when you get down to it, there are, of course, science wants to say, hey, they thought it was a thing of beauty to elongate the skull, so they strapped boards onto the skull, and as the child was growing up, their skull got to be that shape. But then what about where the spinal cord attaches? Because it's different in many of these skulls, the foramen magnum. Different, totally not like Homo sapiens. What about the fact that the plates of the skull are completely different as well, not the same as Homo sapiens? So here you see elongated skulls, greater volume, larger brains, high IQ, 180 on average, do not have creativity or empathy. They relate to mathematics, numerology, and finance. Copper-based blood. All these legends of blue bloods, right? Rh negative, there's that blue blood lineage. European based in Switzerland, 48% pharaonic lineage. Emotionally negative, unhappy, and tend to kill each other. There's slavers. Adepts have religious rituals and human sacrifices. Slaves of the lower dimensions. And again, if you've ever seen some photos of this particular Pope over here, he does look like he's well on his way to transforming into, who?
Mm-hmm.
Darth Sidious.
Yes.
So interesting, but there is tons of evidence. What would these ancient skulls be doing in Peru, for instance, with such close relations to the skulls that we find around the Black Sea or in Africa? How could that be when we're taught that there wasn't these global civilizations out there in these times? Very distinctive looking skulls that you would need a very, very long hat to cover up, wouldn't you? Yes. So what is really going on here? And we see these depictions, we see sculptures. We've heard of pre-Adamites, if we're listening to Corey Good, David Wolcock. And again, we see it on both sides of the Atlantic. Is this just something that they did because they thought it was beautiful? Interesting, too. Some of the big feet have a head just like this as well.
Mhm.
Bigfoot, Sasquatch, a head that goes and protrudes up into a cone shape. Is there a reason why the Pope has a hat like that? Perhaps not today, but what about going way back? As we know, with interbreeding of species, traits will change. Nefertiti and Akhenaten, those were certainly interesting individuals, were they not? And we see the blood lineages as well. So when we're talking about that group what starts with an I and ends with an I, really what we're talking about is the group that starts with an I and ends with an I.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of having L's in the middle, it has some G's.
Yep.
The EGG. This is the EGG. This is what we look at the Anunnaki writings and the Sumerian legends. The EGG that were on Mars and rebelled and then ended up coming here and basically run the show. So are we really looking at right here somebody that has a Martian lineage, so to speak?
Well, yeah, actually you are.
Plain and simple.
Mhm.
Yes. This is exactly what we have going on here. This is what we have gotten from this. And you could see this, Another family that you might not hear of often is the Melman family. And interestingly enough, I remember I had a boss that was of the Melon lineage, and the resemblance to good old Jacob here is amazing. And very wealthy individual that had quite a temper at times and did seem very, very cold-blooded at times. And I wonder where that cold-blooded aspect comes from. Any clues?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know.
I think maybe some clues have been left for us in sculptures and in art and literature. There's a lot of interesting stories. Deals with the devil, who always seems to have a kind of reptilian aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting, guys. More relatives, more new types of humanoid species being found.
Strict disclosure.
Yes, because when we're talking Neanderthals, Denisovans, the new ones here, they want to paint them as ignorant brutes, but usually the opposite of the official story is usually closer to the truth than the official story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
So thank you guys for being part of the family. Thumbs up to support the channel. Please do share. Let's keep waking people up till we get to that nexus point and it's no longer possible for them to hide the truth. And thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Everybody that needs to reach us to make an appointment, it's evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail or EEARTS@protonmail.com. Thanks for your patience, as it might take us a few days to get back to the schedule because we've just been pretty busy and trying to catch up with things, but we appreciate and we want to help everybody we possibly could. As always, God bless and namaste.
Namaste.